thank you, senior scholars. And by the sounds of it, I think we might be taking pictures inside afterwards. Next on the agenda is the commencement address, which will be given by Mr. Clint Conard, who we are honored to have with us here today. Mr. Conard is a 2002 graduate of Marlette High and has had a long career in various leadership positions. He was a 4-time captain for the Marlette football team. Mr. Conard worked for the Central Michigan University football team from 2004 to 2009, where he was a part of 3 Mid-American Conference championship teams, made 4 straight college football bowl appearances, and worked with 13 NFL players, which included J.J. Watt of the Houston Texans and Antonio Brown of the Oakland Raiders. Mr. Conard currently resides in Macomb County, works for Active Technologies in Troy, and coaches football at Armada High School. Please join me in welcoming Mr. Conard to the podium.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much for the opportunity to be with you all here today. I think if you were to tell some of the teachers that I had here at Marlette that one day I would be addressing the class of 2019 as its commencement speaker, you would have seen a lot of jaws drop, some shocked eyes, and Mrs. Foster, my 8th grade social studies teacher, might have fainted. But nonetheless, thank you for the honor for being here today. First and foremost, and most importantly, congratulations. The status that you are receiving today is not a small thing, especially at a time in America where more than ever we have a more vital need to have the best and brightest to serve her many needs. I don't plan to take up a lot of your time today because today is not about me, it is about you. But there are 3 things that I would like to share with you that have helped me along my journey as a person since graduating from Marlette High School. First thing is, be where your feet are. I'll say it one more time. Be where your feet are. Now I see some of you are giving me a look like, wow, thanks genius, that's great advice. Be where my feet are. Thank you. But think about it. What can you control? Can you control something that's happening 1,000 miles away right now? No. Can you control anything that's happening in the hallway at this very moment? No. That is my point. You should always stay grounded and you should always be present. Okay? Always be present. I get asked all the time, Coach, what do you think the biggest play in football is? Is it a pass play? Is it a run play? Is it a certain type of defense? No. I guarantee you, Logan Marshall, right now, if I were to ask him what the most important play in football is, he'll tell you it's the next one. Now, don't get too caught up in looking too far ahead, because it'll affect the next thing that you do. Don't get caught up in looking backwards, because it'll affect the next thing that you do. Like I said, I get asked all the time what the biggest play in football is, and like Logan said, it's the next one, but I'll probably tell you that it's a defensive play more than anything else. You should always take into account, I'm sorry. Be focused on what is right in front of you. Don't get caught up in looking too far ahead, because you might have something that's right in front of your nose that you're missing that's going to help you be successful at that very moment. Don't get caught up in looking backwards and get caught up in the shoulda, coulda, wouldas of life. Is to squander energy that is more suitable for what you're doing right now. So, in closing with the first thing I'm going to say, be where your feet are. The second thing I want to talk to you about holds a very special place in my heart here at Marlette. And I'll introduce it by telling you this. Every year in the National Football League, a team wins the Super Bowl. Every year in college football, there's a team that wins the national championship. In high schools all over the country in late November and early December, there are teams that get crowned state championship. What's the one thing that they all have in common? That no matter how bad things get, no matter how much adversity gets thrown at them, they do one thing. They hold the rope. Now, what is holding the rope? Imagine that you're hanging from a cliff, and there's 200,000 feet below you, and the only thing that's keeping you from plummeting to your death is a rope, and a person or persons of your choosing on the other end of that rope that's going to pull you to safety. Who can you trust to hold the rope? Who can you trust that overcomes the fear of being pulled over themselves to help you? And more importantly, who can trust you to hold the rope for them? Now, when you leave Marlette, when you graduate from here, you're going to become fathers. You're going to become wives and husbands and valued members of society. There's going to be points and times where you're going to face adversity and you're going to have to hold the rope for those who you love and care about. Who can trust you to hold the rope? And will you hold the rope for those when your hands are tired, they're bleeding, they're sweating, they're calloused, and you don't want to hold it anymore, but you have to because you have responsibility? Next time you're around your friends or your families or your coworkers, whatever the dynamic may be, look around and ask yourself the question, who can I trust to hold the rope? And more importantly, who can trust me to hold the rope for them? When your husband or your wife asks you to step up, do it. When someone in need asks you to help them, do it. And do it with total commitment. Never let your commitment fail and your enthusiasm with those commitments to diminish. Never let go of your commitment and intensity to find your own personal championship, whatever it may be, whether it's sports, whatever it is. Never, ever, ever let go of that rope. The last thing I want to talk to you today about is, in my opinion, the most important thing that I'll leave you here with. Many of us are told that having success means leaving Marlette once we graduate, right? Everybody says that. You're going to have success, that means you're leaving Marlette. Well, that's not necessarily the case if you ask me. Now, you can go to college, you can join the military, you can work in the private sector, but please, never forget where you came from. Some of the very people in this room have shaped my life forever. Mrs. Benke, she was my math teacher. Now, math was a 4-letter word for me. And if I'm going to be honest, Mrs. Benke, I'm sorry, it still is. But she taught me different ways of learning that made it fun for me, that I could understand. And she did it with an open heart and a wonderful sense of humor. And still to this day, she's one of my favorite people in the world. Jamie Macumber, who's a member of our school board, she's been my best friend since 3rd grade when we attended Beamantown Elementary together. Today, I have the privilege of being godfather to her daughter, Sophie. Denny Lester, my coach, one of my closest and dearest mentors. Coach not only taught me about the game of football, he taught me about the game of life and what it is to do it with an open heart and a humble attitude and to do it with complete and utter loyalty. It was an honor to have Coach Lester stand up in my wedding as a groomsman last summer. Brian McGinnis. My senior year of high school, we had what was called a media guide. And what this media guide is, it had a profile of every single player on the football team. It had what our favorite food was, what our favorite band was, different places we've been, things like that. One of the questions was, who is the most impressive person you've ever met in your life? My answer was Brian McGinnis. If you were to ask me that same question right now, you'd get the same answer. Trust me when I tell you that you guys are going to miss this place. Hold it close to your heart as I have. I've been very fortunate enough in my life to coach in football stadiums known as the Big House at the University of Michigan, or Death Valley at Clemson University, or Between the Hedges at the University of Georgia. But the more and more you go away from Marlette, the more and more you'll realize that you're from somewhere and how much that will matter to you. So seek adventure far and wide for opportunities and for different purposes. But never forget the places and the people that you've learned from this wonderful place that we call home. And remember, it is who you have, not what you have, that makes this life worthwhile. I can't thank you enough for the opportunity to be here with you today. I think I can speak on behalf of all Marlette alumni when I say if there's anything that we can ever do to help you be successful, please do not hesitate to reach out. Thank you very much, and go Red.